to me, it was disappointing, I'll be honest. I have to be straight. I was disappointed. A lot of people were disappointed.
Let's get into the news, folks. Ed Martin as U.S. Attorney is not going to happen. Here's President Trump withdrawing his name from consideration because we don't want Judge Boasberg to pick who would be the interim U.S. Attorney.
Do you have a backup plan if this Senate
does not? But he's a terrific person, and he wasn't getting the support from people that I thought. He's done a very good job. Crime is down 25% in D.C. During his period of time. I'm very disappointed in that, but I have so many different things that I'm doing now with the trade. I'm one person. I can only I can only lift that little phone so many times in a day. But we have somebody else that will be great.
Since I started this report, we now know who the person that President Trump has chosen to fill in, at least for now. I'll announce that in a second. Let's go back to President Trump's comments from this morning.
I just want to say Ed is unbelievable, and hopefully we can bring him into, whether it's DOJ or whatever, in some capacity, because really outstanding. To me, it was disappointing, I'll be honest. I have to be straight. I was disappointed. A lot of people were disappointed, but that's the way it works sometimes. That's the way it works. And he wasn't rejected, but we felt it would be hard. And we have somebody else that we'll be announcing over the next 2 days who's going to be great.
Ed Martin is the man to go after the deep state. I don't know why Tom Tillis and all the rhinos, the usual suspects, don't want him there. And President Trump is just withdrawing his name. Before I go into who President Trump has named or announced, let me show you what happened to Ed Martin as he was doing an interview with Newsmax this afternoon when he was accosted and a crazy left-winger approached him. Watch this disgusting interaction.
Really focused. How you doing? Oh, whoa.
You are a disgusting man.
That's right.
Crazy leftist woman spits on Ed Martin and says he's a disgusting man. All right, folks, I'm not a big fan of censorship, so let me play for you what went down, what crazy thing she said to Ed Martin before she spat on him. Language warning, I guess.
So we need to get really focused.
Who the fuck are you? You are Ed Martin.
How you doing? Oh, whoa.
You are a disgusting man.
She comes up to him and says, "Who the F are you?" And then says, "Oh, you are Ed Martin." And then this vile, disgusting human being spat on him.
How you doing? Oh, whoa.
Unhinged leftists yet again. If I were Ed Martin, there's two things that would be going through my mind. One, how quickly can I get a test for a communicable disease? I mean, these people, to me, they look sick and disease-ridden. I don't know what might be their HIV to, I don't know, hepatitis. Maybe it's just me, I'm a germaphobe. But if a crazy leftist that looks like that probably smooches her dog, spit on me like that, I would be absolutely disgusted beyond belief. And also, I hope she lands, her ass lands in jail for battery against a person. It doesn't matter that he's a public figure. And also, is it me or is it, who would be recording that on their phone? It's as if they knew that was going to happen, or maybe it's someone from his office that was recording on the phone his interview with Newsmax. Anyhow, let's get to the latest news when it comes to Ed Martin's replacement. President Trump truthed out today. I am pleased to announce that Judge Jeanine will be appointed interim United States Attorney for the District of Columbia. Jeanine was Assistant District Attorney for Westchester County, New York, and then went on to serve as County Judge and District Attorney, where she was the first woman ever to be elected to those positions. During her time in office, Jeanine was a powerful crusader for victims of crime. Her establishment of the Domestic Violence Bureau and her prosecutor's office was the first in the nation. She excelled in all ways. In addition to her legal career, Jeanine previously hosted her own Fox News show, Justice with Judge Jeanine, for 10 years, and is currently co-host of The Five, one of the highest rated shows on television. Jeanine is incredibly well qualified for this position and is considered one of the top district attorneys in the history of the state of New York. She is in a class by herself. Congratulations, Jeanine. And yes, even though we know her over the last decade or so as a TV personality, she is called Judge Jeanine because, in fact, she does have the chops. At this rate, I don't know who next from Fox News is going to find themselves in a position or in the Trump cabinet. I'm obviously saying that because we have former Fox News personality Pete Hegseth as our Secretary of Defense. And speaking of Pete Hegseth, our Secretary of Defense, and given the recent win at the Supreme Court just the other day, SecDef Hegseth is not wasting any time in getting into action. Reuters reporting today that U.S. military to start kicking out trans troops next month, according to a memo. That's right, folks. What we've got here is quick action by U.S. Secretary of Defense Hegseth. In January, President Trump signed the Restoring America's Fighting Force Executive Order and the Prioritizing Military Excellence and Readiness. Executive orders which direct every element of the U.S. military to operate free from any preference based on race or sex and root out gender insanity and made-up pronouns usage, respectively. I'm kind of paraphrasing here. The trans-military ban got put on hold after 2 different district court judges issued injunctions blocking President Trump's executive order. However, as I reported, the U.S. Supreme Court on Tuesday allowed the Trump administration's transgender military ban to take effect. The Supreme Court stayed the lower court's preliminary injunction on the trans military ban pending appeal in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. The High Court made the decision 6-3 with, of course, Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson, who would have denied the application. According to Reuters, Hegseth will start booting trans individuals from the military next month. In the memo, Hegseth said active duty transgender troops could identify themselves for voluntary separation from the U.S. Armed Forces until June 6th. Troops who are on the reserve forces had until July 7th. Quote, on conclusion of the self-identification eligibility window, the military department will initiate involuntary separation processes. For those of you north of the United States, separation processes. So there we go. Giving them a chance to elect to leave on their own prior to June 6th or July 7th in the case of reservists. And then they are going to get the boot and they will be out of there. Speaking of getting the boot and getting out of there, that should happen to Chief Justice Roberts of the Supreme Court. I hope you caught my report the other day about the lawsuit against Chief Justice Roberts for running a clandestine or secret agency, if you will, a shadow agency of judges working against the people. Well, here's the latest from Justice Roberts. If you recall, Justice Roberts had said in response to President Trump calling for the impeachment of these activist judges, particularly Judge Boasberg, who he said should be impeached. To be clear, I'm talking about President Trump calling for the impeachment of activist Judge James Boasberg, who happens to be part of a secret judicial and attorney society in D.C. That's right. Justice Roberts, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, is part of a secret organization with other judges and attorneys who are against President Trump, including Boasberg and Sotomayor. So a couple of months ago, after President Trump's call for Boasberg's impeachment went viral, guess what Justice Roberts did in defense of his little bed buddy in that secret organization? Justice Roberts came to his defense a couple months ago when he said, for more than 2 centuries, it has been established that the impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision. The normal appellate review process exists for that purpose. No, the impeachment is there for when officials or judges are acting in bad faith, not upholding the Constitution, and being partisan attackers. Now, it seems like pretty obvious that Justice Roberts does not like President Trump. I don't know for the life of me what that could possibly be. I don't know. It just seems like all these people that have gone to a certain island in the Caribbean with a certain man named Jeffrey and his associate one Miss Maxwell. For some reason, they have TDS at a level that is absolutely off the charts. Well, Justice Roberts, again, today, admits that he, as the Justice of the Supreme Court, is checking President Trump's executive office powers. They are putting him in check. They are going after him, essentially. And this should be a clue that Justice Roberts has no intention of reeling in the judicial overreach, the judicial coup we are seeing. Here's what he said.
In our Constitution, judges and the judiciary is a co-equal branch of government, separate from the others, with the authority to interpret the Constitution as law and strike down, obviously, acts of Congress or acts of the president. And that innovation doesn't work if it's not, the judiciary is not independent. Its job is to obviously decide cases, but in the course of that, check the excesses of Congress or of the executive, and that does require a degree of independence.
Justice Roberts truly is an enemy to the people, to MAGA, to America First, to President Trump, to the rule of law, and to the will of the people. And he is absolutely working as an operative against President Trump, and I can't put my finger on why that might be. A reminder, WikiLeaks, several years ago, told us and showed us that Chief Justice Roberts was responsible for all the 11 FISA court judges who allowed the illegal spy ring on President Trump. And yet the left wants to say that when I report on things like Chief Justice Roberts being part of a mastermind secret society of judges in D.C., that is somehow some sort of theory of the conspiratorium and shouldn't be believed. Well, believe what you actually can see and what you actually know to be true. Oh, and don't forget, among that group that we saw years ago is Judge Boasberg. Oh yeah, let's not forget that allegedly Justice Roberts has been known to party with the likes of Billy Boy Clinton on a particular island. And let's talk about the owner of that island. First name Jeffrey, last name begins with E. Which brings me to what happened today. So I wasn't very, very happy to hear what Kash Patel had to say today during a hearing. And let me give you the background and then you can hear it for yourself. And please put down in the comments what you think. By the way, if you haven't done so yet, please smash that like button and hit the notification bell. Well, Kash Patel has proven to be let's be honest, an incredible upgrade over Christopher Wray. The Ep files are a sticky point with Kash Patel at the FBI and the FBI hiding information and Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, promising that we'll get that, but we still have no timetable. Now, today there was a hearing before the Senate Appropriations Committee. It happened this morning regarding the White House budget. And Senator John Kennedy addressed the elephant in the room and asked a few questions on the Jeffrey matter. The first concerned whether Jeffrey actually did, in fact, kill himself, which is the official government narrative. And also they talked about the timing of the release of this information. Let me play this for you.
Person with a brain and a beating heart.
Yes, sir.
Did Jeffrey Epstein hang himself or did somebody kill him?
Senator, I believe he hung himself in a cell in the Metropolitan Detention Center.
Nobody buys that malarkey, that BS. And even when Kash Patel delivered that line, it's hard to believe that he believed what he was coming out of his own mouth. But hey, I don't like that. Everyone knows that he didn't do it to himself, or he was forced to do it to himself. We don't need to relitigate and go through that, but the cameras didn't work. There were temporary new people there. He was on watch for unaliving himself, which means that he should not have been able to do it. Everyone and their moms know that is a total lie, and it really is disappointing to hear this answer from Kash Patel.
Are you going to release all the information about that?
Senator, we are working through that right now with the Department of Justice.
When do you think you'll have it done, Kash?
I think in the near future, sir.
Like before I die?
Senator, we've been working on that, and we're doing it in a way that protects victims and also doesn't put out into the ether information that is irrelevant for production of the public, such as CSAM.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Reid.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
For those wondering, CSAM is child abuse material. The term child topography is currently used in federal statutes and is defined as any visual depiction of explicit conduct involving a person that is a minor or less than 18 years of age. This is according to justice.gov. This is on the DOJ website. While this phrase still appears in federal law, child pervy abuse material, or CSAM, is preferred as it better reflects the abuse that is depicted in the images and videos and the resulting trauma to the child. In fact, in 2016, an international working group comprising a collection of countries and international organizations working to combat child exploitation formally recognized CSAM as the preferred term. So funny, didn't realize, folks, that I still had these sunglasses clipped to me for the most of this video. I just, I got right back from Marie's follow-up post-op with her surgeon. Everything is honky-dory. And these are the glasses that my wife keeps in her truck that I was driving today, and clipped them here because while I was driving, it was sunny here in Southern California, and didn't even realize I had them here on my chest during most of this report because I just came right into the studio and wanted to get this information out to you. These are pretty girly, though, gotta admit. Folks, what do you think? What do you think? I don't think Kash Patel has won any brownie points with this answer. I think it's actually pretty disappointing. Now, there'll be some apologists and people who will say, well, you know, what we're supposed to answer, what have you. I'll tell you what I would have answered if I were Kash Patel, knowing what I know. Unless, of course, he really did do that to himself. But let's see, he was on Sue, side watch. And so that shouldn't have been able to happen. And we know all the anomalies, right? The camera didn't work. There was 2 new people there. All the other things that would be a setup so that people could come in, unalive the guy, and there would be no evidence of it, no video evidence or what have you. And supposedly he had like paper bed sheets. So how did he do it? So I think that the better answer from Kash Patel would have been Senator Kennedy. The official report says that he did, in fact, do that to himself. We will, once we release the information, the public will be able to determine that for themselves, or something of the effect. Or even we just said, Senator Kennedy, the official report states that that he did it to himself. That's all I'm going to say at this juncture, Senator Kennedy. I don't want to comment any further on it, besides stating the fact that that is what has been previously reported, or that's the previous conclusion of the previous reports done on this. Just something to distance himself from that BS that we know to be a lie. Now, continuing with the lies and the crimes of people against God's most precious children. Now, I've always been very sensitive to this, but now that I have a grandchild on top of my 4 children, I don't know, maybe it's sparked even more of a fighter warrior spirit within me to expose this evil. This is what we learned today with Natalie Winters on Steve Bannon's War Room. I'm talking about the human child trafficking operation done by Biden and associates.
The, shall we say, remnants of Joe Biden's horrible, maybe thought I was going to say Afghanistan withdrawal, but no, in this case, southern border policies leading to 100,000 unaccounted migrant children, where I guess we just don't know where they went. Brianna Morello has some exclusive reporting. She's an intrepid reporter. She's obviously been on War Room before. You've certainly seen her all over X, but she reached out to try to get the numbers of how many of these children have been, at the very least found, let alone reunited with their families. And she joins us now. I want her to break down her bombshell report. I'll let you, I won't bury the lead, I'll let you give the number because it's quite staggering.
Folks, just listen to this bombshell information and tell me if this isn't the biggest operation of trafficking minors by any organization. And it's even sadder that it's the U.S. government under the Biden regime that we have ever seen. This kind of stuff doesn't happen unless it's coordinated. And in looking for these 300,000 children, the amount that they found so far, given all of the ones that are missing, is absolutely depressing.
Well, thank you, Natalie. It's always a pleasure to be with you. Yeah, it is staggering. As you know, and your audience is well aware of, Joe Biden lost over 300,000 unaccompanied migrant children. And now it's up to the Trump administration to find those kids. Sadly, they're really struggling with doing just that. HSI, according to my source, has only been able to locate about 5% of the 100,000 kids that they've been looking for. Now, I reached out to DHS on this and to see if they had any matching statistics, and they kind of did confirm it, telling me that they were able to reconnect about 5,000 unaccompanied migrant children to a guardian so far. So again, that's just 5%.
Has anybody besides me, and I'm sure many of you have, shed a tear or have had your heart broken? 95% of these children are still missing. And of course, the Biden regime knew they were in on it. For instance, let's look at a few things that were huge red flags that let us know that this was coordinated. This was not by accident.
Now, if you're wondering why that is, well, unfortunately, the Biden administration didn't seem to care when it came to verifying who they were handing these children off to. And we know that. We've heard this before. Whistleblowers came forward to report that. But sadly, nobody really did much about it. As you just mentioned, we have a lot of rhinos in the Senate, and they look the other way on this issue.
Or they jump on planes to pervy islands owned by guys named Jeffrey in the Caribbean.
So what DHS and HSI is dealing with right now is they've been given fraudulent addresses, and it's in regards to where those children were going to be sent to when they did some digging and tried to check up on these kids. Well, in a lot of cases, these addresses didn't even exist. There's no houses there. It was something simple that the Biden administration could have looked into, but they decided not to.
They decided not to because they were part of the operation. I mean, you can even do like a Google Maps thing to make sure that there's an actual residence there, that it's not a business, that it's not an empty lot. I mean, it's really quick that they could do. Now, folks, if you've been with me for, let's say, since November of last year, or actually Christmas Eve of last year, I am currently in California because of my daughter's operation, but I've been kind of stuck in California for several weeks and months because I actually live in Utah. Why? Because I was given emergency custody on Christmas Eve of two boys, an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old boy, my wife and I. They came in and they were all up in my ass. Hate to be vulgar about it, but that's how it felt. They inspected every nook and cranny of my house for the safety of these two boys before we could become foster parents. Background checks. I mean, they didn't just verify my address. They came to my house and inspected the home thoroughly. Yet the Biden regime was handing these kids off to people that were not vetted to addresses that didn't even exist. Can you tell me that they were accomplices in this scheme without telling me that they were accomplices in this scheme?
And I'm also told by my sources that a lot of these sponsors were poorly vetted by the Biden regime. But it's really not surprising, Natalie. I mean, you and I have spoken about it. We knew what was happening for a very long time right now, and that was the Biden administration was participating in one of the biggest human trafficking scandals. It's going to be a black eye in American history, and it's very, very unfortunate, of course. But again, none of these people are going to be held accountable. You know, we're constantly being critical of the Biden administration, but there's very little being done on all of this. And it's absolutely heartbreaking because we don't know where these kids are. But a lot of experts believe that these kids are either being sex trafficked or they're being used for slave labor. And I know Democrats love slave labor. They've actually advocated for a lot of these illegal aliens to be placed on these farms to work for cheap labor.
The Democrats haven't changed. The Satanists haven't changed. And apparently, I can only go by what I see so far. And I'm an impatient man. Not much has maybe changed at the FBI and DOJ. Not with that answer Kash Patel has given us. Not with still having no information about Jeffrey on those files that they said they were going to immediately release to us. And they are very cryptic on when we'll see those. And most importantly, what we all want to see is accountability. I want to see arrests. I want to see perp walks. I want to see people charged. I want to see them go to before judges, go through trials, get convicted, and then see them get capital punishment for these crimes against humanity. And so far, I know we're only a few months into this, and everyone says, James, be patient, be patient. Folks, we've been patient for a long time. And so far, it just seems like a lot of talk, but business as usual. Now, I like Kash Patel. I believe that he's trying to do the right thing, and maybe Pam Bondi as well. But until I see some people fry, I'm going to be judging them on their action, or actually, in this case, their lack thereof. What are your thoughts? Put it down below. I am James, the original BCP. Don't forget to hit the like button on your way out. Hit that notification bell. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Would love to hit 200,000 subscribers this summer. That would put us somewhere along the way where we may have been in a past life. And if you want to see my reporting with no filters, check out my other show at bcpextras.com and therealbcp.com. I'll be back tomorrow.